Prince William will make a poignant visit to his great-grandmother's grave on the final day of his visit to Israel. Princess Alice of Battenberg, as she was known, requested her final resting place to be on Jerusalem's Mount of Olives, a wish that was finally realized in 1988. Before her death in 1969, Alice, the mother of Prince Philip, had lived an extraordinary life, which included sheltering a Jewish widow and her 2 children in German-occupied Athens during the Second World War. She secretly ferried them food and messages of the war-torn outside world for 13 months. During his Middle East trip, William spent time privately with Evie and Felipe Cohen, who told him how she had sheltered Evie's great-grandmother Rachel Cohen and Rachel's daughter, Tilde, in Athens during the German occupation of Greece. Mr. Cohen said, "We all owe our existence to her courage." Felipe, 31, and Evie, 62, are descended from the sons of Rachel, who left Greece to join the resistance once they knew their mother and sister were safely hidden. Princess Alice has been honored by the Jewish people for saving a family from Nazi persecution despite the risks to her own family's lives. But hers was always destined to be a singular life and was, from the very start, extraordinary. She was born in the tapestry room of Windsor Castle in 1885 with her great-grandmother Queen Victoria in the room. Her father was the German Prince Louis, and her mother was born at Windsor Castle, Victoria Mountbatten, Marchioness of Milford Haven, the eldest child of Princess Alice, the third child of Queen Victoria. Aged 8, Alice was diagnosed with deafness and learned to lip read. Relatives believed her deafness made her more empathetic and sensitive towards those who seemed isolated. In 1902, at the coronation of her cousin King Edward VII in London, Alice met and fell in love with then Prince Andrew of Greece. When they married the following year, she gained her second title, Princess Andrew of Greece and Denmark. The eldest of their 5 children is Prince Philip, William's grandfather. But it was not to be a happy union. After her husband was exiled from his native Greece to France, blamed for military failures in a war with Turkey between 1919-22, Alice's marriage hit the buffers. She suffered a nervous breakdown and in 1930 was forcibly removed from her family and treated for schizophrenia in a Swiss mental institution. In that time, her son, Prince Philip, moved to Britain to live with his uncles Louis and George Mountbatten. Her 3 daughters all married German princes who later fought with the Nazis, but she did not attend their weddings. Alice never lived with her husband again and later settled alone in Greece, where she worked to help poor people. There she reconnected with old friend Himaki Cohen, a Jewish member of the Greek parliament, his wife Rachel, and their family. Sensing increasing anti-Semitism in Europe, she promised to help the Cohens if ever they needed aid. In 1943, as the Germans were rounding up Jews in Greece, Rachel was now widowed and desperately needed that help. Hearing of their plight, Alice hid Rachel, her daughter Tilde and later her son Michael in her small apartment. It was an extremely risky move, not least because the apartment was in the shadows of the Gestapo office in Athens. Princess Alice moved into a separate building where she worked as a caretaker and trusted only a few people to help look after the Cohens. During the Nazi occupation of Athens in 1943, some assumed that Alice was pro-German. But when one general asked, "Is there anything I can do for you?" she replied, "You can take your troops out of my country." In 1947, Princess Alice attended the wedding of her son Philip to Princess Elizabeth in London. Her 3 daughters were not invited because of the strong anti-German sentiment in the country. 2 years later, she founded an order of nursing nuns and moved to a convent on the Greek island of Tinos, withdrawing from the world. Although she wore a nun's habit, she never took vows and her nursing order did not last long due to lack of finances. In 1967, by now in failing health, Alice's only son, the Duke of Edinburgh, invited Alice to live permanently at Buckingham Palace. Alice never spoke of her wartime heroism, not even to her family, who did not learn of her actions until long after her death. Before her death in 1969, Alice said she wanted to be buried at the convent of St. Mary Magdalene on the Mount of Olives in Jerusalem. In 1994, Israel's Holocaust Memorial Institution Yad Vashem honored Princess Alice with the title Righteous Among the Nations, which is bestowed upon non-Jews who risked their lives during the Holocaust to save Jews. Prince Philip attended the ceremony and made an emotional speech about how his mother had sheltered the Cohen family. He said, "I suspect that it never occurred to her that her action was in any way special. She would have considered it to be a perfectly natural human reaction to fellow beings in distress.